Hello and welcome to this edition of News Today. Without delay, let's have a look at the headlines first. United Nations member countries finalize the landmark Compromiso de Seville outcome document. India institutions rise in QS World University Rankings 2026. More girls passed class 12 with science than arts in 2024 shows shift in academic preference. Union government launched Gender Budgeting Knowledge Hub portal. World Investment Report 2025 highlights investment gaps threatening SDG progress in developing nations. In a significant development on the global stage, United Nations member countries have finalized the landmark Compromiso de Seville. That's the Seville Commitment, the final outcome document of the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, also known as FFD4. Let's begin by understanding what FFD4 is all about. The 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, or FFD4, acts as a cornerstone of a renewed global framework for financing sustainable development. The conference was held in Seville, Spain, and united government leaders, institutions, businesses, and civil society, all participating at the highest level. However, notably, the United States decided to exit the process entirely. Now, a quick look at the broader context. The Financing for Development, or FFD process at the United Nations is centered around supporting the follow-up to the agreements of the 3 international conferences on financing for development. Let's walk through how this process has evolved. It began with the Monterrey Consensus in 2002, which established the first global consensus on development finance. It focused on increased official development assistance, or ODA, aid effectiveness through the Paris Declaration, IMF governance reforms, and innovative financing mechanisms. Next came the Doha Declaration in 2008, which reaffirmed the Monterrey Consensus during the global financial crisis. It added important elements like the gender-sensitive finance and climate finance, including the Green Climate Fund. And then, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda of 2015 aligned financing efforts with the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. It introduced Integrated National Financing Frameworks, or INFFs, country-owned tools that help governments mobilize and align financing with sustainable development priorities. So, what is new in the Compromiso de Seville? First, it renews commitments from those 3 major frameworks, Monterrey, Doha, and Addis Ababa, and forms a global financing framework aimed at closing the $4 trillion annual SDG financing gap in developing countries. It also calls for international financial architecture reforms, promoting inclusive governance, including IMF quota reforms and a World Bank shareholding review. Next is debt sustainability. The document proposes that the UN lead a group with the IMF and World Bank to establish voluntary principles for responsible sovereign debt practices. On the tax reforms front, the outcome recognizes Pillar's 2nd implementation under the OECD/G20 Inclusive Framework on Base Erosion and Profit Shifting, mandating a minimum corporate tax for multinational companies in every jurisdiction they operate in. Finally, it calls for country-specific technical support to implement both the Global Anti-Base Erosion Model rules and the Subject to Tax rule, also under Pillar 2nd. India's presence in the QS World University Rankings 2026 has seen a notable rise, and the improvement has drawn appreciation from none other than the Prime Minister himself. He welcomed the progress and reaffirmed the government's commitment to strengthening research and innovation ecosystems in educational institutions across the country. Let's begin with the basics. The QS World University Rankings are published annually by Quacquarelli Steinmans, a London-based global higher education analytics firm. Now, here are the key insights from the 2026 rankings. India now has 54 universities featured, making it the 4th most represented country, after the United States, the United Kingdom, and China. At the top of the list for India is IIT Delhi, which has made a significant leap, rising to 123rd globally, up from 150th in 2025. Adding to the achievement, 5 Indian institutions have secured positions in the global top 100 for employer reputation, a clear sign of strong industry confidence in Indian graduates. And that's not all. 8 Indian universities now rank among the world's top 100 for citations per faculty, showing the growing academic impact of Indian researchers globally. But where does India stand in terms of research and development? According to the Global Innovation Index 2024, India ranks 39th among 133 global economies, a promising position but with room to grow. There are, however, several challenges facing India's R&D ecosystem. Let's take a look. Low funding remains a concern, with R&D expenditure at just 0.64% of GDP 2020-21. Private sector participation is limited, contributing only 36.4% of the gross expenditure on R&D or GERD. There's a suboptimal industry-academia convergence where innovations from labs often fail to transform into usable solutions. And of course, the persistent issue of brain drain, driven by better infrastructure and research facilities abroad. To address these gaps, several initiatives have been launched. First, the Draft National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy or STIP 2020, which envisions doubling the number of full-time researchers, GERD, and private sector contribution to GERD every 5 years. Then there's the Anusandhan National Research Foundation or ANRF, established under the ANRF 2023 Act. Its goal is to seed, grow and promote R&D and foster a culture of innovation across India's universities, colleges and research institutions. Another key initiative is Imprint, Impacting Research, Innovation and Technology, which focuses on bridging the gap between scientific knowledge and its engineering application for societal benefit. To sum it up, India's improving standing in global university rankings is a step in the right direction. But sustained investment in research, innovation and collaboration is the key to long-term global leadership. A remarkable shift is unfolding in India's classrooms. More girls are now choosing science over arts at the higher secondary level. According to the Ministry of Education, in 2024, for the first time in over a decade, 28.14 lakh girls passed class 12 with science, compared to 27.24 lakh with arts. This marks a major turning point. Science, once viewed as a male-dominated stream, is now being actively embraced by girls across the country, signaling a strong shift towards gender parity in STEM education. So, where do women currently stand in the STEM landscape? That's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Although more boys than girls still pursue science, the gender gap is narrowing. In 2024, girls made up 46% of all class 12 students who passed with science. At the higher education level, as per the All India Survey on Higher Education or AISHE 2021-22, women account for 52.1% of students in science disciplines. In medicine, female representation is now on par with men. And more encouragingly, their numbers are rising in traditionally male-dominated fields like engineering and technology. But challenges still remain. Social and cultural norms like restrictive gender roles continue to discourage many girls. There's also a lack of visible female role models in science, which limits aspirations. And in workplace, biased cultures often add to the pressure. So why is this important? Because increasing the number of women in STEM is key to ensuring gender equity, diversity, and scientific innovation. We must bridge the gap and fully harness the scientific potential of women in India. Several initiatives are already working in this direction. First, there's Vigyan Jyoti, an initiative designed to encourage girls to pursue higher education and careers in STEM. Then we have the Curie initiative, which supports the development of R&D infrastructure in women's universities to attract, train, and retain promising female students in science and technology. And finally, the Wise Kiran scheme promotes the participation of women scientists in cutting-edge research across science and engineering fields. Clearly, the numbers are changing, and so is the narrative. Moving on. In a move towards inclusive governance, the Union government has launched the Gender Budgeting Knowledge Hub portal. This initiative was unveiled by the Union Ministry of Women and Child Development during the National Consultation on Gender Budgeting. So, what exactly is this portal about? The Gender Budgeting Knowledge Hub is a centralized repository offering a wide range of tools, from policy briefs and best practices to gender disaggregated data. It is designed for use by central and state government ministries, departments, and relevant stakeholders. And that's not all. The portal also features an online application system for submitting proposals related to gender budgeting training and capacity building programs. Let's now understand the concept behind this initiative, gender budgeting or GB. Gender budgeting is an approach that weaves gender equality into the government's planning and budgeting processes. It involves analyzing how public budgets can actually promote gender equality. Gender budgeting includes a detailed analysis of government budgets to identify gender differential impacts, prioritization and framing of commitments and related actions, and ensuring that budget allocations actually support gender equality commitments. But why is gender budgeting necessary? First, because national budgets impact women and men differently, which makes gender-sensitive policies essential. It's a continuous process of integrating a gender lens into policy formulation, implementation, and review. It also promotes responsive governance and participatory budgeting, encouraging the greater involvement of women in decision-making, especially in bodies like Panchayati Raj institutions and urban local bodies. Moreover, it supports the legal framework, strengthening key laws such as the Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013 and the Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act 2013. Now, let's take a quick look at how gender budgeting has evolved in India over the years. It started in 2001 with a research study by the Ministry of Women and Child Development, NIPFP, and UN Women on gender-related economic policy. That same year, gender inequalities were also highlighted in the economic survey, marking the pilot phase of gender budgeting. In 2005-06, gender budgeting was officially adopted by the Government of India with the introduction of the Gender Budget Statement, Statement 13, to report allocations for women and girls. By 2007, the Ministry of Finance issued a charter for gender budget cells across all ministries and departments. The NWCD also launched the Gender Budgeting Scheme for capacity building. Then, in 2008-09, one of the key elements underlined in policy discussions was the importance of mainstreaming gender through gender budgeting. Between 2012 and 2017, during the 12th five-year plan, the focus remained on gender equity. Also, in 2007, the government introduced child budgeting through the Statement of Allocation for the Welfare of Children, Statement 12. In 2022, under the India at 75 vision, efforts were directed to ensure optimum budgetary resources for women and child welfare, along with effective GB and child budgeting across all ministries, departments, and state or UTs. Looking ahead, in 2024-25, a revision of the gender budget statement format is planned. This includes introducing Part C to cover all schemes that have less than 30% allocation for women. Clearly, gender budgeting in India is not a one-time intervention. It's a structured and evolving process that ensures accountability, inclusivity, and measurable commitment to gender equity. And with the Gender Budgeting Knowledge Hub, that journey is now stronger and more accessible than ever. The newly released World Investment Report 2025 by the UN Conference on Trade and Development has raised serious concerns, especially for developing countries working towards the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. According to the report, rising uncertainty is weakening global investment trends, and this could severely impact the ability of developing nations to meet the Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs. Let's take a look at the numbers. Global FDI flows, that is, foreign direct investment, fell by 11% in 2024, dropping to $1.5 trillion. FDI inflows declined in most developing economies among the top 20 recipients. The United States remained the largest recipient of FDI, while India ranked 16th. But FDI growth wasn't uniform. Take Africa, for instance. It saw a 75% increase, but this was driven almost entirely by a single large project in Egypt. Meanwhile, Latin America and the Caribbean witnessed a 12% decline in overall flows. Now, here's the worrying part. Investment in job-creating industries is stagnating, or in some cases being completely bypassed. Sectors like infrastructure, energy, and labor-intensive industries are missing out on capital, even though they are critical for economic development. Even more concerning is the decline in sectors crucial for achieving the SDGs. Renewable energy investment dropped by 31%, while water and sanitation fell by 30%. To meet the SDGs, developing countries need an estimated $4 to $5 trillion annually, a gap that seems increasingly difficult to bridge. So, what is driving this decline? The report points to a mix of factors: geopolitical tensions, trade fragmentations, intensifying industrial policy competition, and elevated financial risks, all of which are undermining investor confidence in the long term. And what is the way forward? The report suggests scaling up the catalytic role of multilateral development banks and expanding the use of guarantee, hybrid capital, and de-risking instruments to attract private investment into critical sectors. As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. The World Economic Forum, or WEF, recently released the Energy Transition Index, or ETI 2025. According to the key findings, Sweden secured the top position, followed by Finland, Denmark, and Norway. However, India's rank saw a decline, dropping from 63rd in 2024 to 71st in 2025. NIXI commemorates 20 years since its establishment. NIXI is a not-for-profit organization registered under Section 8 of the Companies Act 2013, established in 2003. Rajkot turned Nakrawadi, a decades-old dump site burdened with 16 lakh tons of legacy waste, into 20-acre green urban forest. It was developed as part of Swachh Bharat Mission's Lakshya Zero dump site initiative, aiming to remediate legacy waste dump sites and achieve garbage-free cities. An oarfish, also known as the doomsday fish, was recently caught off the Tamil Nadu coast by fishermen. Doomsday fish is a strikingly large, odd-looking fish known for its distinctively long ribbon-shaped body that enables the species to float inconspicuously throughout the water column. The United Nations Secretary General has released the annual report on children in armed conflict. The report highlights a 25% surge in grave violations against children under the age of 18, with a total of 41,370 such violations recorded in 2024. NASA's Axiom Mission 4 got delayed again owing to problems in the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft. Axiom Mission 4 is the fourth private astronaut mission to the International Space Station, or ISS, for up to 14 days docked to the ISS. The Union government has announced a 10 crore rupees prize for drug development to treat sickle cell disease on World Sickle Cell Day. Sickle cell disease is a group of inherited red blood cell disorders where abnormal hemoglobin causes red blood cells to become rigid and crescent-shaped, resembling a sickle. Researchers have uncovered a mysterious star named A980 that belongs to a rare class called extreme helium stars. For the first time, researchers also detected germanium in A980, which never before observed in this type of star. Indian Council of Medical Research has launched its first high-performance computing facility named Nakshatra at National Institute of Virology, Pune. Nakshatra is developed under PM Ayushman Bharat Health Infrastructure Mission. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.